All right, and welcome in, everybody. Hope you all are having a fantastic, fantabulous, awesome freaking day. My name is Garrett Shoemake, and this is the Shoemake Take, and today we fly our way over to Atlanta to talk about the Falcons. I'm sorry. I love doing stuff to make myself crack up. It's funny. But we are talking about the Atlanta Falcons today and how I think that they're going to be good in 2025, but it is no longer their division to win. So a lot of interesting things with this team that we're going to be talking about. The Atlanta Falcons have always been a team to me that I've wanted to root for them, not like be a fan, but the Falcons to me have always been a team I've wanted to root for because when the Falcons are good, things are really fun. Like we remember like the Falcons in the late 90s when they made their Super Bowl run, and then the Falcons during the Matt Ryan years, they were good. They were fun to watch. When the Falcons are good, I feel good for some reason. So I want the Falcons to be good. I think they're going to be good this year, but like I said, it's no longer their division to lose. They're going to be playing catch up for the majority of the year, I think. But if you guys know how this series works, you guys can go ahead and jump into the discussion. The timestamp is in the video description. But for those of you that don't know how the 2025 season preview series works, here is what we're talking about. We'll start by recapping 2024. How was each team doing? How was their record? How did they perform? And then we'll get into this offseason, looking at the free agency, the draft, any notable news, coaching changes that each team made. And then after that, we will look at the schedule. We'll analyze it, break it down game by game, look at where things are easy, look at where things are tough, and overall how I think it shapes out for each team. And then after that, I'll give you my thoughts overall on how I feel about the team. Are they going to be good? Are they going to be bad? Are they going to be mid? We'll look at some, strengths and weaknesses, and break those down. And at the end, I'll give you guys my official record prediction for each team, and then we'll look at some storylines that I think will be important for each team in 2025. So for now, let's talk about the Atlanta Falcons because they have an interesting year ahead of them. Last year, they went 8-9, and last year, it was their division to lose, but in typical Falcons fashion, they joked it away at the last second. They had it. They swept Tampa too, so they had the divisional tiebreaker. They had the advantage there, and they still managed to lose games at the end of the year and miss the playoffs. And I'm sorry. I will admit that I was partially wrong about Kirk Cousins and his play on the field. Yeah, he was not playing great. It was obvious that, his time's probably up in the NFL. Not as good. You can tell his injuries have caught up with him. He was not that good last year, quite frankly. Not as good as I thought he was. So I will say I was wrong about that. But I am not going to say I was wrong or about them benching him for Michael Pennix. No matter how you spin it, I get it that Michael Pennix, he showed some good signs. He was fine, looked encouraging. And was he technically the better quarterback at that point? Sure. But also, I'm not in favor of throwing your rookie quarterback in a situation where where it could not be ready to go in a bunch of must-win games when you're neck and neck with Tampa in the division and you're trying to push for the playoffs. The Falcons were supposed to be a playoff team in 2024. And so in that situation, starting your rookie quarterback in must-win games when the pressure is at its most, I don't really like that. But I will give Michael Pennix credit. He did perform pretty well, despite the fact that they did not close out those games. Was he the reason that they lost? No, but he was also not the reason that they won. But ultimately, he did show some encouraging things, which that should be the biggest takeaway, at least for now, because 2024 is over. They missed the playoffs, which is unfortunate, but now it is fully all Michael Pennix now in Atlanta. But their offseason had a couple things. They brought in Jeff Ulbrich to be their defensive coordinator. Their last defensive coordinator, I can't remember who he was. I apologize, but he was fired, and apparently he was not pulling his weight. And Raheem Morris had to really take on the role of when watching the defense, not being the defensive coordinator per se, along with being a head coach, but he was definitely in that room a lot from what I heard because the defensive coordinator was simply not pulling his weight, which is unfortunate. But now you bring in Jeff Ulbrich. Some people have a bad taste in their mouth because he was the Jets' interim head coach after Robert Saleh was fired in the dumpster fire that the Jets were last year. But as a defensive mind, I think Jeff Ulbrich is good. He's well respected. He's well revered in the league. And he's definitely going to be an improvement over their previous defensive coordinator, it looks like. I think I can say that with some confidence. So I can say this defense has a chance to be better this year. I like who they brought in with Ulbrich, and I can't really complain. And then the other big notable thing in the offseason was they they extended their right tackle, Kaleb McGary, as a 2-year, $30 million extension. Not a whole lot, but Kaleb McGary is good. He's a good tackle. He's solid, reliable. You don't hear a lot about him, but that's a good thing because he's not allowing pass rushers to go past him. He's not allowing big plays. He is a solid tackle. He's as good as they come. And so to extend him, keep him around for a couple more years, really, really like that. So other than that, let's talk about their free agency and who they brought in. They did bring back a lot of their players, and that's why they didn't do a whole lot on offense. Their most notable thing was bringing in DJ Chark at wide receiver, who's going to be good depth for them. But Brian Easton's sick. He's going to be a backup quarterback behind Kirk Cousins, make that third string. Then brought in a couple tight ends. They brought back Felipe Franks. More specifically, he was with the Falcons before. I think they actually drafted him. Then he went to Carolina, and now he's back in Atlanta. And then you look at the defensive side of things. They brought in Morgan Fox, Leonard Floyd to be their number one edge rusher. I like Leonard Floyd. He's a veteran. He's going to be a good presence in that locker room, especially with the edge group, with the guys they brought in the draft. We'll talk about here in a moment. But they also brought in 2 linebackers, Divine Deablo and Kaleb Johnson. Divine Deablo is probably going to start for them, and Kaleb Johnson is probably going to provide some solid depth. And then they brought in a couple corners to fill in the void that they lost there in free agency. And overall, I can say I like their defensive free agency. They obviously didn't do a whole lot on offense. They just brought in some depth players. But on the defensive side, they brought in a couple starters to help elevate this unit, be a good leader, especially with Leonard Floyd. And so I can be encouraged. It wasn't a whole lot, but it was good nonetheless. Then you look at their losses. And on the offensive side, the only thing of seriousness that they lost was Drew Dalman at center, and this one hurts. Drew Dalman's been there for a while. He's been really good. He ended up going to Chicago. They traded him away. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, they traded him away to Chicago. It stinks because now you have a pretty big hole at center, and they didn't really address that in the draft, which I thought they should have. But losing Drew Dalman just really, really sucks. And then on the defensive side, they lost Grady Jarrett, who's been there for a long time, their star defensive tackle, and that's another one that's unfortunate. Grady Jarrett, not only has he been a pillar on that defense, he's been a pillar of the team, he's been a pillar in the community of Atlanta. He's done so much for the organization and for their community. So see him go, it just sucks. It's so sad, but Grady Jarrett, congratulations for him for a great career in Atlanta. One of the best Falcons in recent memory for sure. And then they lost Eddie Goldman, Lorenzo Carter, guys that were starting but were kind of low quality. So getting rid of them really isn't that big of a loss to me, at least. And then lost a couple other guys in the secondary that really weren't up to par as well. So nothing of serious note other than Drew Dalman and Jarrett. Overall, what they lost in free agency is more than what they gained on paper, just strictly numbers wise. But I think the players they brought in on the defensive side are an improvement slightly. So there is an improvement. Now we look at their draft class, which I'm mixed about, if I'm being honest. I like who they drafted, but the problem is they only had 5 picks because they traded back into the first round to select James Pierce. And with 5 picks in the draft, kind of like with the Browns, it was a mismanagement of their resources. You had 5 picks and you drafted 3 positions. 2 edge rushers, 2 safeties, and then an offensive lineman. And the offensive lineman was a tackle. You didn't even draft a center, which you probably should have drafted a center to develop and replace Drew Dalman in the future. But it's hard to complain about that when the players that they got are so talented. Starting with Jalen Walker, the tweener out of Georgia. Can play linebacker off ball, can play edge rusher. As an edge rusher, he's got good speed, he's got good bend, gets inside pretty well, and as a linebacker, gets downhill, very instinctive, very, very, very talented football player who can do a whole lot of different things and he's probably going to be more of a primary edge rusher at the next level. I think that's where they like him. But Jalen Walker has a potential to be a franchise changer and definer on this defense. He brings so much to the table, so much intangible talent to work with. I think he's going to make a big impact as a rookie and play pretty well, considering that they don't have a lot on their defensive line to be excited about. Jalen Walker really gets me fired up. And then another guy that really gets me fired up, they traded back into the first round, foreshadowed earlier, James Pierce Jr., the edge rusher out of Tennessee. I'm a Vols fan, so I'm not excited because I'm a Vols fan, but because James Pierce Jr., in my opinion, has the highest upside of any edge rusher in this draft class. It's going to need a little bit more refinement in his technique and his tools, but oh my goodness. There's a reason why that early going into 2024, early mocks had him potentially going as high as first overall in this draft class before everything was all said and done. He is explosive. He ran a 4.4 40-yard dash at 245 pounds. He is electrically quick, gets off the edge extremely quick, closes really quick. When he gets inside, he is a threat to immediately pummel down your quarterback. He can run sideline to sideline, sets the edge really well with his speed, and in coverage, he looks like he's a natural. He can just drop back in there, make a couple plays, and quite frankly, if James Pierce would have developed a lot better in 2024, he would have been a top pick in the draft, but he fell just a little bit because he really did not take that big step forward people thought he would in his final year at Tennessee. But at the same time, looking at the intangibles that he has on tape, he is fast, he is explosive, and if he develops, he will be one terrifying edge rusher to go up against in the future. So they invested a lot into these two players. They needed to. The Falcons need pass rush. Their fast rush has been historically terrible over the past 20 years. So getting two guys that not only have a lot of speed, they have a lot of good pressure rates, they have good win rates. Those are two guys that fit exactly what the Falcons have been missing. And here's to hoping both of those guys develop, considering that they didn't only had 5 picks. The pressure is on, but I think they have the chance to really live up to it with their talent. And then you move on to Xavier Watts in the 3rd round, safety out of Notre Dame. He is a ball hawk, has a bunch of interceptions, a bunch of pass breakups over his last 2 years for the Fighting Irish. Also plays with really good speed, breaks on the ball, really good at understanding his coverage and where he's supposed to be. Xavier Watts is probably going to be competing for that second starting spot next to Jesse Bates, which, by the way, his pro comp for a lot of people was Jesse Bates. So obviously there's a good connection there. But right now, Jordan Fuller is going to be starting next to Jesse Bates, but I believe that Xavier Watts could be starting games by the end of this year. He's got a lot of upside. Very exciting player. And another exciting player is safety Billy Bowman out of Oklahoma. He is a similar skill set to Xavier Watts, where he's good in coverage, breaks on the ball, also has a lot of pass breakups and interceptions in his time in college in 2023. He had multiple pick sixes, so he shows that he can be dangerous with the ball in his hands. But the big thing about Billy Bowman is that he is a film junkie. This is one of the biggest things people talked about. I like this a lot about him because it shows not only is he serious about football, but also he is committed to the process of getting better. And you get a guy like that in the 4th round, a guy with some physical upside that could develop. He's not as big as Xavier Watts, but he is just as fast and probably has a lot more fluidity. He can just dart from direction to direction like it's nothing, starts and stops on a dime. Billy Bowman could be a really good 3rd safety in the future and maybe be the starting safety after Jesse Bates to go next to Xavier Watts. I really like these two safeties in general. They have a lot to like. They have a lot of good production, good ball skills, and that's something they need in this secondary is more players with good ball skills. So even though they only drafted 2 positions here, it's hard to complain with the players that they got because they're all really talented. And then last but not least, we will conclude in the 7th round with tackle Jack Nelson. Started at left tackle for 3 years. In 2021, he was a right guard, which was interesting. But he's just a solid athletic tackle, gets to his spot, anchors well. He's going to be competing for a backup spot on the offensive line, going to provide depth. Like I said, I wish they would have gotten center here or went with any interior offensive lineman for that matter. But with Jack Nelson and his potential, I get it. Not that he's going to be starting anytime soon because of Kaleb McGary and Jake Matthews being there and being good. So I don't expect him to be starting at any time soon. But maybe there's a possibility he can. He's got the upside for it. So we'll see what happens with Jack Nelson. So overall, is this team improved? Yes. Is it by much? No. But it is a clear better football team than what they were last year. Excuse me. And that is exciting. And their schedule is a little bit up and down. I think the first 6 games for the Atlanta Falcons are challenging. They're going to be really challenging. The second 6 are much easier. And then the last 6 are pretty far balanced. Let's look at week 1, which is against the Bucs at home. This is probably a win. I think the Falcons and Bucs split this year. I think that they're going to be competing with each other for the division, even though Tampa, I think, definitely has the edge here easily. But make no mistake, the Falcons are going to be a competitive football team, and I have them splitting with the Bucs again. In week 1 at home, remember last year they got the big overtime win. Kadero Hodge took it all the way to the house with like a 60-plus yard touchdown catch and run. So I took this game not only to be good, it's going to be fun, it's going to be exciting. In week 1, very, very big test for Tampa and for Atlanta. And then week 2, you are on the road against the Minnesota Vikings in that defense. This is going to be tough because the Falcons defense is going up against J.J. McCarthy. They need to figure out how to get pressure on J.J. McCarthy and make him uncomfortable. Because if they can't, the Vikings have everything in place for J.J. McCarthy to do well. So you do not want to see the Falcons not get a pass rush and make J.J. McCarthy comfortable to be able to get throws out to Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, T.J. Hawkinson, and all the weapons that they have, especially with, you can't not account for Aaron Jones in the run game and also Jordan Mason, who they brought in. So for the Falcons, their defense is going to be tested here against the Vikings offense. Going to be a tough one. And then week 3 on the road against the Carolina Panthers. The Panthers beat them last year when it really mattered, and it effectively ended their playoff hopes. I think it was week 18 where they lost it. They were 8-8, fell to 8-9, and that cemented them losing on their opportunity to make the playoffs. And I have the Panthers winning this game. The Panthers are at home. I think they split this year. So give me a win for Carolina. So you're looking at a potential 2-1, 1-2 start here. And then week 4 against the Commanders. This one is going to be a good football game. These two teams last year at the end of the year were fighting. They went into overtime. It was back and forth. It was a lot of fun. And this was Michael Pennix's best game out of his 4 starts. And I think this game is going to be good again. I think it's going to be good. I think the Commanders are a better football team still. But I don't think this is a game that's going to be an objective loss for Atlanta. And then you got a week 5 bye. That sucks. I don't like early byes. And then week 6, you come back home and face the Buffalo Bills in prime time. I'm sorry, that's a loss. The Bills are a much better football team at this point. They have a great offense, great defense, and the Falcons have a great offense, but their defense has a lot of work still to be done. And going up against Josh Allen, that's a terrifying thought. So I have Buffalo Bills winning this game, but that's not a surprise to very many people. Then week 7, you have the 49ers. The 49ers are going to be a tough matchup because the 49ers are, they're always a tough, gritty team, regardless if they're good or bad, as of late with Kyle Shanahan as the head coach. But they're going to be a decent football team this year. I think Atlanta could win this. It just depends on how well this 49ers team actually looks with all the newness on their roster. And then week 8, you're at home against the Miami Dolphins. This one is a winnable football game, but another strong test for this defense. Because if you can get pressure on the Dolphins' offensive line, which should be doable, their offensive line isn't great. And so here's a good opportunity for Jalen Walker and James Pierce to make some plays, make an impact here, and pressure Tua, make him a little uncomfortable, and try and alleviate some of the pressure that Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle are going to create because with their speed. The Falcons do not have the corners in secondary overall to run with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. So if they can get pressure on a subpar offensive line for Miami, that's going to help them out a lot. But ultimately, I think the Falcons can win this game. They're at home, so that helps them out. And then week 9, you're on the road to face the New England Patriots. The last time the Falcons were in New England, they got absolutely obliterated. So, going to be a little bit tough. Tough game anyways, because Mike Vrabel's going to have them ready to go. But I think the Falcons are a better football team. I think the Falcons win this one on the road. And then in overseas, I can't remember if they're going to London, Berlin. It doesn't show me here on the schedule graphic. But week 10, they face the Indianapolis Colts. I think they win this game. The Falcons are objectively better than Indianapolis. But their defense will be a good test for this offense because the Colts defense should be better this year overall. And then you're at home against the Panthers week 11. Give me the win there because I have them splitting. And then you're on the road against the New Orleans Saints. I think you can win against the Saints. I think you can sweep the Saints this year. I don't have them winning very many games. I have them winning only 4 games. I think they suck this year. So going on the road, week 12, 2 division games back-to-back. Give me 2 wins back-to-back and make it 3 and 4 if they beat the Patriots. Make it 5 if they can beat the Miami Dolphins as well. And at that point, the Falcons would be cooking and be on their way to going better than what I have them finishing now. But then their last 6 games is a mixed bag because you have the Jets on the road. That's a winnable football game. But the Seahawks week 14 at home, that's a tough one. That's a really tough one. I really like the Seahawks this year. They have a more well-rounded football team. But this defense, with an offense that's going to need time to get better in Seattle, it'll be interesting to see how well these 2 units have developed and progressed by this point, week 14 in the year, getting ready to enter the home stretch. And then week 15 against Tampa, they're on the road. I have them splitting, so I have them losing this game against the Buccaneers. And then week 16 against the Arizona Cardinals, this should be a somewhat close matchup, but I think the Falcons are better. I think they pull out that win. And then week 17 at home against the Rams in prime time. I'm sorry. No, I think the Rams are a better football team. I think they win that. But you close at home against the Saints, which I think you can win. So the schedule overall it's overall pretty balanced. Like I said, the first 6 are challenging. Second 6 are much easier. And the last 6 are pretty balanced overall in its own right. But the Falcons have a really good chance to build off of what they did last year, considering if they choke the division. They have an opportunity to really set themselves. They have an opportunity to begin the Michael Pennix era properly, and things can begin moving forward for the Atlanta Falcons. And so I think they're going to be good. I think they're still going to be strong. Their defense is going to need some work. It's going to have some growing pains. But this offense with offensive coordinator Jack Robinson is going to be really good this year. I really, really like the scheme that they run. I really like the players that they have. It's going to be really good. And for their strengths, number 1 is running back. Bijan Robinson had the best year of his career last year. Tyler Algier is really good in his own right. And so I expect these 2 backs to continue to play really good. I don't expect there any production issues. I don't expect anything other than really, really, really good running back play from these 2. And then wide receiver is another strength. Drake London had the best year of his career last year, went over 1,200 yards, really looked like the true wide receiver 1 that the Falcons drafted him to be a couple years ago. And Darnell Mooney had just under 1,000 yards, really quiet, but really, really good for the Falcons last year. Really good wide receiver too. I thought that he wouldn't do a whole lot, but no, he did a lot. And considering that he wasn't really good in Chicago, it's good to see him play well. I like that. I really liked Darnell Mooney after his first year in Chicago. He went over 1,000 yards with Justin Fields. That duo looked really good, but then it never flourished. So to see him here in Atlanta play well is really encouraging. I like that. And the offensive line should continue to be a strength of this team, even without Drew Dalman at center. They still have Jake Matthews. They still have Kaleb McGary at tackles. Their right guard, they still have, what's his name? It is Chris Lindstrom. He's really, really good. So they have a good offensive line still. It's been a mainstay on the Falcons that their offensive line is fantastic, and I don't expect that to change anytime soon. But then you look at the weaknesses, and they're all on defense. The interior defensive line, without Grady Jarrett, is going to suffer. They're going to have some issues with a bunch of new players. I'm really not that excited about the Falcons' interior defensive line. I mean, Rook Orororo, their former second-round pick, that's a fun name to say, Rook Orororo, needs to take a step forward this year. Really, really needs to, because he should be the best player, but he didn't do a whole lot of stuff last year. I want to see more. He's talented, but we need to just see him more. And then Zach Harrison and David Onyemata, they're good, just not great. They're okay. And then the next major weakness is linebacker. Linebacker still has some holes that needs to be filled. Other than Caden Ellis, he's okay. He's pretty good. But Divine Deablo, he's a fringe starter. And then the other weakness, their depth also is not fantastic. And their other one, edge, it's not on the list, but I will consider it a somewhat weakness just because Leonard Floyd is good, just not great. But he's going to be more of a vocal leader. You have two rookies that need time to develop. And then, what is his name? I don't know how to pronounce it. Let me give it a good shot here. Arnold Ebikite, I think is how you pronounce that. I'm going to... Ebikite. I'm going to guess it's Ebikite. I don't think it's Ebikitai or Ebitike. I think Ebitike sounds a little bit more proper, like a last name. He's okay, but just not great. The edge rusher, they have a lot of upside, but right now, early on, I think it's going to have some problems. And then their secondary depth is not that good. AJ Terrell and Jesse Bates are fantastic. There is no problem there. But Jordan Fuller, he's a fringe starter. Like I said, Xavier Watts, their third-round pick, is probably going to be starting games for them at some point. And then Mike Hughes at the other outside corner spot, he's okay. I like Mike Hughes, but he really has not consistently been a good corner year to year. And then after that, they don't have a whole lot of anything. So the secondary depth is very concerning for the Atlanta Falcons. I think it's going to be an issue for them, similar to how it is for Carolina. But if this defensive line can be formidable, if Jeff Ulbrich can get these young edge rushers to develop and play well by year's end, if the defensive line can just be okay, they don't even have to be good, if they can just be okay, that'll help the secondary out a lot. Because AJ Terrell is only so much he can do. There's only so much Jesse Bates can do. They need this front seven to play well. Unfortunately, I just don't know how good they're going to be and how much they're going to be able to progress. But division-wise, I have them finishing second in the NFC South behind Tampa Bay. I do not have them making the playoffs this year, unfortunately. While they're a better football team, I still don't think they're good enough quite yet to be a playoff spot. You have Michael Pennix going into year 2, so you want to see what a full season of him looks like, even though I'm excited. But this defense does have a lot of problems still. It's going to need time. It just needs 1 or 2 more years before the Falcons are truly back into contending mode once more. And right now, my official record prediction for the Atlanta Falcons is a bam 9-8. So they have a winning record. They're going to be better than what they were last year, so it all checks out. But they still have plenty of work to do. And so looking at the storylines, the first thing is obviously Michael Pennix in year 2. Michael Pennix was really encouraging last year. Made a lot of good throws on time, played within the structure of the offense very well, and little intangible things like that is what I like to see. The fact that Pennix was comfortable doing the boring stuff, just dumping the ball off, getting the ball out on time, making plays when it mattered, stuff like that was really encouraging. And that's why the Commanders game was the best game of his rookie year last year, because he really stepped up and played well when it mattered. He made big time throws time after time in that game. And Michael Pennix, obviously he's got a great arm, really great elite arm talent. So a lot of that was on display. The only knock on Michael Pennix that I have is just his age, because he's an older prospect, which when he got drafted 8th overall by the Falcons last year, everyone, including myself, was floored because no one expected it, considering they gave Kirk so much money and they're still paying him all that money to be a backup, which is crazy to me. But despite the Falcons and their bad process with their quarterback development and paying Kirk so much money for him to not play and then drafting Michael Pennix, despite everything that they were trying to do with letting him sit and develop, it's his team now, it's his show, and he's got the pieces around him to play well and build off of a very strong rookie year and last few games of the year for him. I'm excited. I'm really excited to see what he can do. As long as he can just take care of the ball and stay healthy, that would be really, really good. Excuse me. Let me just take a sip of water. I'm sorry. Throat is dry. But number 2, will this defense suck again? Because this defense has a lot of problems. There is excitement with Jalen Walker, James Pierce, Xavier Watts. But overall, this defense still needs a lot of work. They need more on the defensive line. They need more at linebacker. They need more at secondary. This defense is a little ways away from being a strong contending unit that can help elevate and complement this offense. But with Jeff Ulbrich, defensive coordinator, with the hard worker that he is and the lack of hard work that the defensive coordinator allegedly had last year, I think that's going to help set a new tone and a new identity for this defense. And while they have upside to get a little bit better with these 2 edge rushers, Jalen Walker and James Pierce, I just don't know that they have the talent to be a good unit in 2025. I think that's going to hold them back a little bit, which is why I have them going only 9 wins. And because of this defense is just going to hold them back. It's going to have some problems. And maybe this offense can be good enough to overcome it. They will at least a couple games, but it's not going to be enough for them to make the playoffs. And then number 3 is Raheem Morris a guy? Because after last year, I'm not fully convinced that he's the guy. He was good. What he did in year 1 with the Falcons was really good compared to what some other head coaches did in their rookie years in 2024. He was the second best behind Mike McDonald. And so you want to see him do a little bit more this year. Obviously, losing games at the end of the year to miss the playoffs is not good. You don't like that. But I feel like that's more of a whole team issue more than just Raheem Morris. But because you're the head coach, you're going to catch the flack for it, unfortunately. So the end of last year was discouraging. I'm not fully convinced that he's the guy, but there's a lot to like with Raheem Morris in his second stint as a head coach. And I think that this year we will see an improvement. And then lastly, this team has a low floor. If the Falcons offense does not live up to expectations, or Michael Pennix does not live up to expectations, this team is going to be pretty bad. With this defense, there's just not a lot. And I also put here that they have a high ceiling. And because if the offense continues to be great and Jeff Ulbrich can turn this defense around, if this defense can be better than expected, this team will compete for the division and probably have a good chance of winning it. But right now, this defense, I'm just not confident in at all. But I will acknowledge that they have a chance. They have a chance to be really good. If it really banks on Michael Pennix and this defense. If Michael Pennix is good and this defense is better than expected, they will be better than 9 wins. But if those 2 factors don't work out in their favor, they will win less than 9 games. So it's kind of Michael Pennix taking a step forward in year 2 and playing well, which I expect, and then this defense having some issues. So we'll meet in the middle with 9 wins. I like it. I'm confident in it. But overall, that is going to do it for today's video talking about the Falcons. If you guys have made it this far and have enjoyed, please consider hitting the like button and the subscribe button. It helps the channel out tremendously as we're trying to reach 500 subscribers by the end of the 2025 regular season. We're almost at 200. We're about to hit 190 if we haven't already. You guys are doing a fantastic job, so continue spreading the word and keep on smashing those 2 buttons. Helps a lot as we continue to grow our community here on the Shoe Make Take. And also, Falcons fans, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. How do you think of my assessment of the Falcons? Do you think they're going to be better? What do you think of this defense? Are you excited about Michael Pennix? Are you excited about Jalen Walker and James Pierce? I want to hear everything you guys have to say about your team in the comments down below. Please do. I really want to hear what you guys have to say. And then thirdly, make sure you guys share this video on social media and follow me on social media, whether it's TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all that good stuff. And then lastly, make sure you go check out all my other season preview videos. The entire AFC is out right now for your viewing pleasure. So if you're a fan of an AFC team, or you know someone who is a fan of an AFC team, tell them to go check out the 2025 season preview series here on the Shoe Make Take. Got great content and great breakdowns for every single team. And we're going to be finishing up with the NFC this week. I'm going to be recording every single rest of these videos. So the rest of the NFC South, NFC East, NFC West, and have them all coming out every day over the next couple of weeks. And during that time, after that, I'm going to take a couple weeks off, work on some social media clips, get them ready and primed. And then before we know it, we will be back here once more for the 2025 season. Football is back. It is so, so good to have football back. Very exciting. Best time of the year. That is going to do it for me today, guys. Hope you guys have enjoyed. And I'm going to be flying out of here, flying away from Atlanta as we fly down south to my hometown, Tampa Bay. And I will see you all next time.